and everybody, the artistic director of Inclusive Dance Cork. Jorge, it's lovely to be in your company today. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
It's always a pleasure to be with you too. So Jorge, for those who have been living under a rock and who don't know who you are, you're a dancer, choreographer, a lecturer in university, and a very, very strong ally for inclusive practice and for people with disability in the arts. So take me way back when to the very beginning of your journey of how you became a dancer in the first place.
All right. Well, let's start saying that thank you very much for that kind introduction. You are hired, Rhona. So thank you for that. That's
Thank you,
my job.
Jorge.
And also a couple of warnings. My apologies to everyone if either I speak too fast or my accent is very strong. I am from Spain. I lived 15 years in London. Someone in the first week told me that my accent was sexy, so I never bothered to change it. So my apologies, not my fault. So bringing you back when then, I started studying sports science, and then in the second year, I discovered dance totally by chance. It was one of the subjects at university. I totally fell in love. I think it's the only and first time that God appeared, said to me, "Okay, you need to do that," and I just follow her guidance, and I started dancing. I became a professional dancer. I moved to Barcelona, then to Belgium, then to London. And arriving to London was my first experience with integrated dance. I was a dancer with Candoco Dance Company in the season 2007-2008. And since then, I've been in the world of dance and integrated dance since then. And the last experience I had, it was with Axis Dance Company that I created a piece for them last autumn. And in the meantime, lots of things happens. I finished my PhD in non-ordinary states of consciousness at Goldsmith University. So I have my own cognitive training for dancers, athletes. I keep choreographing, and I am also a lecturer at the university in Sitges in Barcelona, but it's a British university from depending from Liverpool John Moore University. So I wear lots of hats. It depends of what do I have to do when and with who.
Okay, and so let's break that down a little bit. So you talked about when you started your program, your online program. Tell us a little bit about that, Jorge.
Yeah, that was 2015. No one knew what was Zoom back then. Everyone thought that Zoom just was when you have a camera and then you zoom in or you zoom out. And I started because I was kind of like researching what it means to be present on a stage. I started
Mm,
dancing when I was 22 years old. So I've never heard you're a great dancer, which was really annoying. I always heard you have an amazing presence or you look so much taller on a stage, which was great. So I start doing this PhD about discovering what is dance presence and how you
mm,
train it. Because I come from a sports, it's like if I can feel it, you can train it.
mm.
The PhD was super easy. It only took me 10 years and 3 relationships. The rest was super fun.
Okay, not that long at all.
No, not at all. So, because it was all about training that presence, I realized that training is something that takes time. So, I went to teach workshops and I did a couple of classes here and there. But what is important is to have the continuity. So, I
Mm,
created a way to have an online training for people to follow the
mm,
methodology that I created for the PhD. And that was 2015 when it's like, okay, guys, whoever would like to train this stage presence, this flow, let's say, you can do it
mm.
online with me. And since 2015, yeah, it's been a massive success. We had lots of, now we have Olympians, we work a lot with the sports, politicians, entrepreneurs. So this is kind of like my main job, the training, the presence training, let's say.
Yeah,
Of that is not only to be on a stage when you are talking to people, when you're a teacher, when you are having a difficult conversation, to have that presence, that flow, it what it counts, and that's what we train at the moment.
yeah. And to be completely present, to be authentically there body, mind, and spirit in that situation at that given moment in time. Um, so if anybody's interested, just for curiosity, if anybody's interested in doing the course, how do they go about that if there's people here who'd like to do it?
Because we have different avenues, we always like to have a conversation with people one on one. So the very first thing and the easiest is to reach out to me on Instagram, which is nowadays the easiest way to get together. It's
Mm.
Crecis, Crecis. I'm gonna put it in the chat. I am very sorry because my name and surname are not very marketing friendly. Sorry to say, but just following that, sending us a message, listen, I'm interested in training my presence, in being a better teacher, in being a better performer, in being,
Mm,
I don't know, being that not that frustrated with something doesn't work well, or being less aggressive, or things like that. Everything that has to do with cognitive training, and we cater the different solutions for different people. So that's the first avenue. Thank you
yeah.
for asking. And then we do training for groups. We are including this program in certain universities. So we
Mm,
kind of like lead the mental health and cognitive training of the students throughout the year.
mm,
Because, and this is very important to me, this is very close to my heart. I can give you tips and I can give you a book to read, but the important work for me, or the word for me, it's training. So
mm.
doing 5, 10, 15 minutes every day of little exercises, this is when things really change.
Absolutely.
The continuity that we want to.
Y- Yeah, I think that's the biggest when you and I met. Actually, I didn't realize that you and I met when you just started working inclusively, because you and I met in 2007
That's
at Candoco. And we've a friendship spanning a very, very long time. But I think that's one of the key goals and key facets between you and I is that it's about dance, but it's all about the whole minding your mind, minding your body, minding your spirit, and merging the two and keeping that flow, to use your word, going throughout all of the different elements. Talk to me a little bit, Jorge, about working in university and from an inclusive program point of view, and why you feel that's important for dance programs.
Mm. I've never went away, even if I have a main job, which is this cognitive training. I always wanted to have a foot in university, in
Mm,
education, because I believe that if you really want to change something, change education. So what I really like to know is that when I die, there will be other people that will continue with certain legacy of ideas, and that is main done through education. So I think it's massively important to keep an eye on what is being taught to the future professionals and how it's
mm,
being done. And for me, being someone that has at its core of its practice, or my practice, it's cognitive training, I cannot not talk about inclusivity, how important it is to be integrated regardless of your background, gender, religion, sexual preferences, physical, mental, or learning abilities, mixed abilities, disabilities. So it's very, very important that going to the core of what make us humans, regardless, and
mm.
more important, together with the context of what make us what we are, abilities, non-abilities, religion, sex, etc., etc., etc. So that's why I
Yeah.
think it's very, very important.
Do you feel that colleges and universities cater enough, and there are enough of these programs in university settings at the moment?
No, I think it's important to have more of that, because in my experience, you are the only person who were really into the university setting. So all my experience has been quite divided. Yeah, we have kind of like a university course for dance, for dancers,
Mm,
and we have certain people with disabilities in there, but there
yeah,
hasn't been something in the universities that I know, that is a program in which helps people to teach, to choreograph, to train in inclusive practice. And I think that's very, very important once again, because if we want to change the future, we need to change education.
yeah, Completely agree with you. And I suppose we've been very lucky with IDC that we've been able to do that, and we've been fortunate enough to have strong allies in different universities and different university education. So that's great. But it needs to keep uh going and growing, as I would say, and it needs to be multi-led, genuinely by people with disabilities themselves. And it's important to have very, very strong allies too at the same breath.
I think it's very, very important because people like you has been in the industry for a really long time. And let's talk for a second and let's be very honest about the industry. Dance is in a very weak moment.
Yeah.
Uh, Therefore, we need to open all the possibilities that could be. And therefore, universities should see as the inclusive practice as another avenue where dance can have an impact in society. We need
Mm,
to start going away of only dance being on a stage. Please
mm,
don't misunderstand me. Dance needs to be on a stage, but
mm,
not only. So most of the dance universities that I know are catering for that specific moment, or teachers who are going to be teaching dancers to be on a stage. And therefore, we need to open other ways of how dance can be an avenue to increment our humanity, the core values of what make us humans. And I think
mm.
that's why integrated dance should be part of those university studies.
Absolutely. And I use such a simple explanation for this. When we all go to a nightclub, I've said this many times, we all just jump on the dance floor. We're not standing there psychoanalyzing each other, going, "Who are you now? And should you be here? And should you be on the dance floor? Or shouldn't you not be?" Etc. Etc. Everybody's there. We're just a bunch of souls bouncing around in different bodies, and how brilliant and beautiful is that? So to emulate that in a dance program and throughout university, or even just performance on stage in every type of setting, inclusive practice just works. And I fundamentally believe it's the way forward. It can't be on the fringe anymore.
Completely, and we are not going to say anything new. We all know, if we are in this room, we know that dance is really important for neuroplasticity, for social skills, for
Mm,
self-knowledge. What is our place in society? What is the structure and the function of the self, which are the pillars of mental health? And therefore, dance has so much in order to impact the human being that needs to be part of the education, and we cannot go away without being integrated dance because it's for all humans. So yeah, we're not saying anything new. Dance is amazing, and we need to take care of that being the skill that helps the next generation of humans to develop in the right way.
How did you? Yeah, I completely agree, and everybody in here would be of the same sentiment, but it's important to state it because sometimes it can become a lot because you're trying to be all things for all people, and so it can become a lot, and you have to go back to the core of the core and the root of the root of the root and the bud of the bud to see why you're doing what you're doing, and if your core values are pretty much staying the same and aligned throughout. When you started working, I'm curious, when you started working with Canduco and you had your first experience of working inclusively, what were you thinking? How were you feeling? And what was that experience like?
At the risk of being politically incorrect or being completely out of context, so my apologies if someone feels offensive. I felt that it was really cool that there was a wheelchair user, that it was an amputee, that it was someone who was, how do you say it in English?
Deaf or hearing impaired?
Hearing impaired because he was not
Yeah.
completely deaf.
Yeah.
And then I thought, okay. And then they have the dyslexic Spaniard, bald, short person. So I look at it as a bunch of human beings with different casuistics, different context.
Mm,
Only then, when I get into Kanduka and I start having these experiences, not only with the people in the company, but people like you, because we were in the summer courses and
mm,
all people with disability, that I realized that, yeah, it's important to somehow disregard the disability, someone being in a wheelchair, but it's also
mm.
important to honor them.
Yeah.
That's where it was for me. So at the beginning, it was like, yeah, cool. We are just a bunch of people with different backgrounds and different contexts. And then it taught me something about honoring those circumstances of each of us, and that was an eye opener that I carry with me up until today. I don't know if I'm answering your question.
No, you are. You actually are answering it quite beautifully. And so then, if that was the beginnings of your work with Canduco, then how has that evolved in with the different works that you have done then with Access?
Um, okay, let me think for a second because it's been a couple of years since then. Well, I think it always been in the back of my mind because when I've been with people with and without disabilities, or in context with normally the major population was people uh, without disabilities, it's
Mm,
always in the back of my head once again honoring those differences. And
yeah.
therefore, I always try to look at the students that I'm working with or the dancers that I'm working with as a choreographer as unique individuals with unique set of skills and with
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
background and with unique fears and desires. And then from there, how to create a common goal from all of us that we can all contribute. So that has been kind of like, regardless of who was in the room, with or without wheelchair or whatever ability or disability, has always been kind of like something that I took from that experience, from that first experience. That was my learning. And
Mm-hmm.
the last one, just to jump ahead, has been with Axis, as we were talking before. In autumn, I created a piece for them. The piece was called Blueprints of Being, which somehow closed the circle of that because it was about honoring that blueprint, what make each of the dancers who was in the piece, uh, what makes them who they were the day of the premiere. So what was their blueprint? Uh,
Beautiful.
that was a gorgeous work. We had
Beautiful.
were mm, part of the queer community, deaf community. We have from the autistic spectrum. We have different all those people. So we created a beautiful blueprint of what it means to be a dancer as
Mm-hmm.
archetype with
Mm-hmm.
those different blueprints. And that was a gorgeous work. I have it in
Yeah.
my heart. And Nadia Adame, which I think is going to be part of this conversation.
Exactly. She
Her,
will be in a couple of weeks.
and she will tell you a little bit more about it.
Yeah, and just so people have a bit of context, myself, Jorge, and Nadia all met at the same time at Canduco in 2007. So I think the relationships that you meet through dance and in particular inclusive dance, those relationships stay with you throughout your life. They become your go-to, they become your ally, they're a similar mindset. So and you're all helping each other elevate and raise the bar, which I think is only ever a brilliant and good thing, you know. Talk to me about you doing some work with us at IDC and how was that experience for you?
That was amazing. First of all, the arriving there, meeting you at the station, and having to see Cork, which I've never been there before. I like this. This is gorgeous. I like
Yeah,
it a lot.
yeah.
I can not, or I cannot not talk about how well taken care I was. It was really nice to be in your company, being around Cork, and the workshops themselves. I really, really enjoyed it because in
At the
total.
Firkin Crane, yeah, it's
Yes.
a beautiful space. It's a beautiful space.
I'm gonna be very vulnerable now, and I was trying to avoid to say the name because in the same way that not many people can say Jorge Crecis, I don't think I can say the name of Parking Crane.
Firkin Crane.
Parking
Yeah,
Crane.
you said it. Yay.
I
There you
was
go.
trying to avoid it.
Yeah, it is a beautiful space. It is a beautiful
It
space.
is gorgeous. Upstairs, downstairs, the round circle. And it was very nice to meet. In total honesty, I didn't have much plan because I always want to arrive there. I have the
Yeah.
first hour plan, and then it's like, okay, what this bunch of people wants, what they need, what can I offer them? And it put me in a vulnerable position, in a difficult position because like, okay, now you have to deliver. But it was beautiful because it pushed me every day, every hour, every minute almost at reading the room, answering what was needed.
Mm.
I don't know if I managed, but I did it with all my love and with all the things that I know. I once heard, and I don't. it comes from a dancer, but I don't know who's the quote. It's like, teach everything you know and only what you know. And that was a weekend in which I had to put in practice that teach
Yeah.
what I know and only what I know.
And you're right, because for any of us who were in facilitation or teaching or co-facilitating or running a program or whatever, when you're in a space with a big group of people and they've all got different needs and wants and desires and they all want different outcomes and might have different reasons for being in the room, it's forever changing and evolving in the space. So you can't become really overly attached to any particular idea because it's forever and moving and evolving all of the time. Even for me, when I'm there all of every weekend with all different facilitators,
And I
and
have to
you,
say that
yeah,
something that was really easy for me is to have you in the room, not because you are here, not because I'm trying to sing your praises, but because you have the experience, you know the crowd, you know what we are doing. Having you there to help, to direct what I was saying, how I was saying it, how I was preparing for the next part of the class, to have our debrief, it really helps not just to go and throw a lot of information, but to
mm,
cater to what I had to do for the people that I was there. So your expertise in there, it was massively important to have it, which also it's something that I really like because if I go somewhere, I like to have someone that guides me
yeah,
because you are the person who stays there. So
yeah.
that's important.
And thank you that, and feel the same way about you. I just think it was a lovely synergy. But what was different about this year, because we're not attached to a university at the moment, and we just stepped away from UCC, was we were running the individual workshops. And that has been kind of different to other years where we've been running a program where we've had students in the academic year from September to May, and it's the same students, and there's a thread line throughout. But I will say this, and I love it so much, but it happens every single time I'm in a workshop. It doesn't matter if it's a workshop that's 2 days, 1 day, 5 days, an academic year. You form a bond with people in the room very, very quickly. And it happens through movement, it happens through dance, it happens through vulnerability, it happens through conversation, it happens for 10 million different reasons, you know. And I love that. And I like watching people have their aha moments in the room. And that's a fun thing to stand back and observe when you see those things happening. Um, of all the different things that you've done, Jorge,
Mhm.
between dancing and the choreography and the lecturing and developing doing your PhD and developing your program, what are the ones, what are the things that spark the most joy?
Mm. Um, I'm gonna make a note because I'm gonna ask your permission to put that into brackets and do a step back into how important and special was that weekend because it
Okay,
came to mind. Okay, thank you.
okay,
Thank you for your permission.
welcome.
Uh, when you were talking, it came to me the sentence strength in vulnerability because I think what it was really, really important for that weekend is that we were all very vulnerable. It was like,
Yeah.
I need this, I know this, I do not know this. But instead of looking at vulnerability as a weakness, something that make us
Mm,
weaker, is like, I don't know this, or
mm,
I don't know how to approach this, or I am scared of doing this. That
mm.
was a strength because by being there together, what I realized is our vulnerabilities, it was just only a desire to be better at something and
Yeah.
it out there. And by doing just putting it out there, it make us stronger knowing what we had and
Mm,
get there. And I think we got a few things that of those aha moments in that weekend, or like now that vulnerability that I had now, I see that as a strength. So I just want to
yes.
clarify that. I don't know if you agree.
No, 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 I agree. And actually, quite interestingly, and I wanted to get into a conversation with you about translation,
Hmm.
about translating things in the body. I think it was quite interesting from your weekend that you were there. that I was translating movement that you were doing that could be seen very, could be perceived or seen as very for the able-bodied, and translating it into my body and my movement with my chair. And people have different viewpoints about their wheelchair. Some people see it as an extension of themselves. Some people see it as an aid that gets them around, which is how I see it. It's not part of me. I'm just me. It's like glasses, same thing. But I appreciate different people feel differently about it, and that's lovely. But it pushed me. It pushed me to a very interesting space when I was adapting your translation when I was translating your movement into my body and from my chair at the time. So there was a vulnerability in that too. But then at one point we were bouncing off each other with the movement. And we
Mm.
were both working on the translation almost at the same time, kind of going, oh, this is what we need to do. Oh, and what do you think of that? So and then for people to witness it was very important. Was very, very important. Did you feel that?
Yes, and actually, it's very, very reassuring. I am not naming names, but I see people who were there with us that weekend that now they are nodding, saying like, "Yeah, how
Yeah.
was that?" So yeah, I felt that, and it's very reassuring to see people who were there with us that weekend, and now they're nodding as
They're
well.
nodding along. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Because sometimes it's difficult for people to name things for themselves or ask those questions. And that's the beautiful thing about dance. It takes away all of that. It takes away all that noise, and it just becomes about the movement, and it just becomes about the dance and how it works in your body. And the beauty of everybody's body is we're all different and they all deserve to be celebrated. Everyone, you know. So I go back to my question. So which is the one that's sparking the most joy, Jorge? Dance, choreography, teaching at the university, or developing your program? Or uh, how are you feeling about all of them at this point of your career, shall we say?
I'm thinking about that question. I write it down because I think all of them has something in common which I really like, which is bossing people around, and I think that gives me a lot of joy.
Yeah.
Now, jokes aside, all of them has something to do about guiding, and this is
Mm,
something that sparks me a lot of joy.
mm,
Telling people what do we have to do or this is the solution. But being a teacher, I always start my classes, I am not going to teach you how to dance, or in this case, I'm not going to teach you choreography because I don't think there is something that you can be taught. I'm going to give you excuses to practice for you to learn about it.
yeah,
I really like. Being a choreographer is a little bit about the same. I'm not gonna give you the same the steps which many choreographers do, and that's very very loable and great and fantastic. But I'm guiding you for us to co-create a piece together because you're gonna be the dancer who are gonna be dancing the piece on a stage, and this is something that I always believe. Dance doesn't happen until someone dances it. Therefore, the dancer is the ultimate responsible for the dance to happen. So,
yeah,
choreographer, my job is to guide the dancers for them to make dance happen.
yeah,
So what sparks me joy is to see how I am guiding a group of people, and together, and this is a very important word for me, together we arrive somewhere. We arrive to a dance combination at the end of the dance class, or we arrive of making a piece as a choreography, or we arrive to certain conclusion at the end of the weekend at IDC. So that's
mm,
what sparks me joy, the guiding and arriving. And I'm gonna say one more thing that I realize right now, and I want it to be recorded because I never thought about it. Even if we think that we haven't arrived anywhere, that's impossible. We always arrive somewhere.
absolutely. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean that. Oh yeah, 100%. Because even when you start a workshop in the morning, and then the development throughout the day, it could take an hour. It could take 15 minutes. Different people hit different spots at different times. You are constantly arriving at different points of the day. And there are ebbs and flows. And it's one of the ways. It's my favorite way to work, actually. I don't love choreography really being put upon me. I like it to be a collaborative thing, and it for it to be an exploration between two or a group of people through discussion, or and I think you have to, I genuinely think that you have to walk into a setting with the curiosity of a child. You have to have a curious mind,
Mm,
you know, and you have to have that willingness to go with that curiosity, you
mm.
know. And I think that's vitally important. But in saying that, at this point of my own career, I'm careful about who I align myself with now.
It's important.
Yeah.
The people that you align, it's very, very important. What I was thinking about arriving somewhere is even if we are not able to articulate it or even to feel that we arrive
Mm,
somewhere, because
mm,
that's totally fine, we don't have an end conclusion.
mm.
The sum, S-U-M, I don't know if I'm saying correctly, the
You
sum,
are?
the summative of our experiences make us
Yeah.
who we are. So that weekend being part of ourselves maybe doesn't materialize in somewhere then and there, but it definitely it's something that no one can take away from us. So therefore
Yeah.
we arrive somewhere that from there we grow. And therefore the people that are around you, it's very important because depend if instead of you, Rona, would be Nadia facilitating, we would have arrived to somewhere else.
A different experience.
And that's really
Absolutely.
important with who you align in order to arrive to different places.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But from a I agree, but from a choreographer point of view, and working with somebody to develop a piece, I'm very careful about who I align with, but I'm also very careful about who I bring into IDC to co-facilitate, you know, because experience teaches. And so you want to be with people who are A, like-minded, and B, that you're all kind of traveling on a similar trajectory and a similar place of where you want to go and where you want to be,
Hmm.
you know?
Totally. And can I tell you, I don't know if you know this, but I'm gonna tell you something that I put in my contracts when I am a choreographer because I don't know, I just wanted to share it.
Yeah.
When I am acting as a choreographer, I am trying to avoid for the last 10, 15 years the word choreographer. So part of my contract in all the companies is that the credit should be as follows: concept and direction by Jorge Crecis, devising and performance by name of the dancers. So for me, that's very, very important.
Mm, yeah. Why? Is there more you want to say about that? Because you might as well, because that's an important thing to speak about.
Yeah, it could be just the etymology of the word choreography means
Mm,
to write movement. A
yeah.
choreo movement, graphos,
Yeah.
right. I don't consider myself, that might be the imposter syndrome or whatever, of the one who writes the choreography, who writes the movement, because I do not create the steps by myself. Therefore,
Mm,
I shied away of, and I know that the choreographer has many, many different meanings right now in the world of dance. But
mm,
I feel that what I really do on this studios is I direct, I give directions. I have
mm.
a concept of an idea, could be skipping on the rope, or could be throwing bottles, or could be the blueprints of what it means to be a dancer. I come with an idea, I direct people to create something
Yeah.
around that idea,
Yeah.
but the people who are the dancers are devising the material. That's why my
Mm,
contract said devising and
mm.
performance by the name of the dancers. So those are the reasons of why I decided to go with those credits.
And from my point of view, and you're right. I think I, I can understand exactly why you're doing the way you're doing it, and it makes perfect sense. But from my point of view, as a dancer, not that I mean, I've been doing this with running the program. Although I do have a residency coming up, and I had a residency last year, so I am doing some dancing as well, which is lovely. It's important for the soul. But I have had choreographers put, and I'm using the word choreographers intentionally, put choreography upon my body that my body could not do at all. And it wasn't even ill-meaninged from their point of view. It was, I think they just got so excited about the way I could physically move, and they had never worked inclusively before. So therefore, I was pushing in my body into spaces and places that it couldn't go It couldn't be. It wasn't safe. And so for me, it's probably one of the strongest things that I always say to students, whether it's on the program or workshops, mind your bodies. Don't be afraid to say the word no. Try something. If it's not working, you have to give yourself a gentle push to see if something works. But it's about the balances then. It's about the balances because you have to lead that.
Definitely. And that's why I like a lot the word directing, because at directing you, or in this case, I have to do a huge exercise of knowing how much I push and how much I accept, because it's my role also to try to push, because maybe from outside
Yeah.
you see something that my people might not know that they are capable, but you can see. But then you also need to know when to step back and that direction, just to guide to what is capable of. So it's a beautiful synergy when that happens.
It is, and that's why I said earlier on that you almost have to enter a space with the mind of a curiosity with the childlike, because if you've never been in a dance space before, inclusive or otherwise, you're you're going to have limiting beliefs about yourself and your body and your movement and what you can and can't do, and then playing with that concept and then pushing through that little boundary or that little barrier is incredible, you know. So it is a nice little synergy, and you have to develop relationships with people for that to happen. It takes trusts. It takes a lot of trust.
It takes a lot of trust, and I think that's the beauty of the work of the director, right? To see
Mm,
things that the other people has not seen, in order to
mm,
take them out of them,
mm.
while not being a fundamentalist, trying to get things out of people that they are not capable of.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 absolutely. Absolutely. And so tell me then, right now, what's happening in your world right now once you come back from where you are at this moment? What's going on with you work-wise moving forward?
Well, very, very exciting. We continue doing this cognitive training for dancers and elite athletes. So we are starting a new phase, which we are working with an Olympian at the moment, which is going to be co-guiding with us a training for athletes.
Mm-hmm.
We continue developing the training in different universities, and we are probably opening a master's degree in Spain, and so far only in Spanish for now, although next year, 2026, is going to be in two languages, in
Good.
order to develop this training for a state of consciousness associated to peak performance. That's kind of like and everything is based in neurophysiology. So it's a little
Okay.
bit where we are going next, and we are starting to get quite a lot of use. We started a few years ago, but now we went out of the research and development phase, and we start using wearables, virtual reality, augmented reality, and artificial intelligence in order to help people to train that cognitive states associated to peak performance in a more efficient way. So very, very
Okay.
exciting times, 2025, 2026.
Fantastic. Sounds absolutely incredible. And you know yourself with assistive technology and with the AI thing, again, just incredible tools again for working inclusively, as long as, and again, there's balance with that too, because you can't lose the heart of something either and of the person, but a brilliant aid to support. Brilliant aid
It's
to
a tool.
support.
I like what you said. It's an aid. It's a
Yeah.
support. A tool. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, Jorge, I'm going to open it up to questions to see if anybody's any questions. Now, bearing in mind, everyone, I can't see whose hands are up. I can only see Jorge's screen. I don't know why that is, but if there's anybody who's got any questions, just feel free to unmute.